Talking about? Mighty Max.
Mighty Max?
Hi everybody, and welcome to Josiah is Right. So we're going to talk about Mighty Max today. So this is our third, I don't know what order I'm going to release these, to be fair, because it's just what I edited. This is our third as we record it, but possibly second, or even, it won't be our first, because first is going to be Exo Squad. But this is our next, there you go, this is our next in a series of videos of toy lines we think should be brought back, rebooted, however you want to put it, but toy lines we want to see again as toys, as cartoons, as on and on and on and on. So we talked about Exo Squad, we talked about Muscle, and again, maybe not in that order as they're released, but so that might be a preview. But we're going to talk about Mighty Max. So first up, a little bit of history of Mighty Max. Paul's like expecting some fancy graphic.
Yeah,
it's like a 3D Mighty Max. Mighty Max.
History or whatever.
Probably not. Just,
okay.
Anyway, so now the history.
Before we even mention Mighty Max, we have to talk about his sassy older sister, Polly Pocket. Sister toy line, that is. Chris Wiggs first created Polly Pocket in 1983 for his daughter Kate, using an actual makeup compact to create a tiny house for an even more tiny doll. He licensed it to English toy company Bluebird Toys, and Polly Pocket was released in 1989. With Polly Pocket selling tiny people hand over fist, why not monster heads? In an effort to cash in on kids just like me, Mighty Max was born. Released in the US by Mattel, the original toy lines included Horror Heads and Doom Zones. The toys are gnarly looking playsets that opened up to reveal some kind of adventure therein, with the exterior reflecting the monster or doom within the playset. The sets always included Max and some kind of setting-related creature. Frankenstein's monster, snakes, things like that, scorpion creatures. You get the gist. The deep and intricate plot for the toys told us that Max inherited his dad's hat, which warped him to these various nether regions. He was a 90s kid, so he had to put it on sideways to look cool. And it actually said that on the box, with Max saying it out loud, so you know he's cool if he says it. The story came to us via comics on the box itself. The original Max's hat would change color based on the zones he morphed into, and Max was a more squat figure as he was presented as more of a kid. In 1993, the world got a gritty, dark, and at times downright scary cartoon. Max was now a bit more grown up, and the figure turned from a chubby little boy to a slender teen, and Max's iconic red hat would remain iconically red. Playsets were also added to reflect plots from the show. The cartoon changed the story by adding the Yoda-like chicken, Virgil.
And I'm a fowl, not a chicken.
Virgil is really a brilliant device for an exposition machine in the show. He explains all the crazy Egyptian backstory that shouldn't make any sense, but you buy it from the chicken, fowl. There's the stoic but not so stoic bodyguard Norman, voiced by my personal favorite character from Night Court. Max himself was voiced by Rob Paulson, who voiced, well, everyone you love from every cartoon ever, and still does. The show was produced by Film Roman, most famous for The Simpsons, but before that, they made their bones with kid shows like Garfield. The show was actually created by Rob Hudnut and Mark Zaslav, the latter who had previously worked on some of the iconic Disney afternoon shows, including Tailspin. The first show aired on September of 1993, and begins with Max getting a bird statue, which contains the hat for some reason. The cap then sends him places, including Skullmaster's lair, the main antagonist for the show, voiced by the ever-menacing Tim Curry. Come on, he's this guy, and this guy. Even as this guy, he's still totally scary. The show follows Max, Virgil, and Norman as they travel through the world in history, allowing for semi-educational epilogues to the shows. The show was lighthearted but heavy and violent, at least implied violence. This, with a superb voice cast, elevated the show beyond the quality of the cheap 90s cost-cutting animation. 40 episodes later, the show ended in the second season with a time-bendingly beautiful and tragic finale. Besides the toys, in 1994, McDonald's released a Happy Meal line which included a fixed Max, meaning he was part of the playset, permanently so. 1994 also saw a totally forgettable game released for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. There was a Tiger handheld game, which I'm sure rivals the other games for their terribleness. Unfortunately. Micro toys boomed in the early and mid-90s. Just about every major toy line had some kind of miniature version. Certainly not a new idea, but by the mid-90s everything seemed smaller in a good way. The appeal to a kid is simple. You get more stuff for very little. A toy industry analyst said in a 1993 New York Times article, "If you reduce the scale of a product, you can get a bigger environment in a small space and can have more items. This is the whole mystique of Mighty Max and Polly Pocket, wonderfully complex environments in a small space." It also made business sense. In the same New York Times article, then editor of Playthings magazine, kind of a dubious title if you ask me, said, "The buzz in the industry this year is good value at affordable prices. Some manufacturers have dropped expensive toys that they announced at the beginning of the year. There is a big emphasis on toys under $20. The financial value appealed to parents, and the play value appealed to kids. As a kid with very much limited funds, Mighty Max filled that void. Granted, he was very quickly pushed aside as Galoob created amazing miniature sets for their Star Wars Micro Machines line, which I'm sure was true beyond my own toy chest. In 1993, with the help of the cartoon, Max's sales peaked. In 94 and 95, they began to decline exponentially, with the line dead and other issues, I assume. Bluebird toys, along with Max and Polly, would be eaten up by He-Man. I mean Mattel in 1998.
I have the power.
From Mattel.
While Max hasn't been heard from since the mid-90s, Polly Pocket was produced in the United States until 2012, and other parts of the world until 2015, with Brazil being the last holdout. Brazil really holds on to things, don't they? Polly Pocket was relaunched in 2018. Hopefully she'll make Mattel Skull Mountain-sized stacks of money, and we'll get a Mighty Max reboot. The reboot we truly deserve.
Whoa, did you see that history? It was amazing.
So, okay. So first up, what did you have? What did you have of Mighty Max as a kid? So I'll start with mine just because I didn't have much. But
Okay.
what I had was very much beloved. I probably had like one or... Is that your phone again,
That's my
Paul?
phone.
Every time we do this, Paul's phone goes off. So.
Sorry.
I wish I still had this, and I'll spoiler it. I sold it. You know, this is my version of the Exo Squad, where Paul shared that he sold his Exo Squad like in college or going to college, whatever it was. Mine was probably around that same time when I sold my Mighty Max, and I had this probably like maybe one or two small sets, but I had this play set that was the magma rock monster bad guy fortress thing that then folded out. To be a play
Magus,
set.
I think, right?
Yeah.
That
It was amazing. I loved it. I got so much play out of that set. That's all I needed. I mean, I would have enjoyed more, but that was such a good piece to have that's all I needed. I remember one of the legs, it folded out so that there was this lava guy on a motorcycle that could come out of it. Like it didn't shoot out or anything, but he was just placed in there. It came with Norman the big guy, it came with Virgil the chicken, and the bad guy, the Skullmaster, and it came with a lava monster, and it was amazing. An amazing set. It had everything I needed as a Mighty Max fan. So that was what I had, and that's sadly what happened to it. I sold it. I wish I had. That was all I had. That one piece. Like I said, maybe a small set here or there. So what about you? What did you have?
I have a couple of the smaller sets. They're maybe about this size. There's one that gets a Triceratops. There's one that's a skull, where you're in a dungeon or whatever. And there's a mummy chasing after Mighty Max, and I have some of the smaller ones where there's kind of like a zombie lumberjack, and there's a one that's a snake. But the cool thing about it is when you open up, they have these little tiny figures, they have Mighty Max, and he's maybe an inch tall, and they have this whole play set, and you can.
I mean, not even an inch tall, like a half inch tall. I have here just for to show you scale. I have Micronauts toys from something, and this is the scale you're dealing with. They're pretty much that's how big Mighty Max is. They are that small. So just to give you an idea of scale, that's pretty much right to size.
Yeah. So when you open it up, you have some kind of theme,
probably maybe a little bit bigger than that.
Egyptian theme or something, and then you have him go through this adventure where he's chasing after the mummy or whatever. But it's very similar to Polly Pocket,
yeah, which as we know it was basically Polly Pocket. Girls like that. So here's the boy equivalent, Mighty Max.
Yeah.
Which is just a great name for a toy line.
Oh, totally.
Mighty Max. It's it's. I'm sold on that.
Yeah.
Probably was. So, is there anything else you had?
Oh, and you got me the set.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I was so excited. I didn't even know they existed.
I'll link below. I did a video with my thrift store finds, so I'll link to that video, and I'll cut into some of the clips I have of the thrift store stuff that I got for Paul actually, because I got it at a thrift store on my street, and I was digging through the bins, and I was like, oh, these are awesome. They're actually a set of McDonald's Happy Meal toys that were, I almost said Polly Pocket, that were Mighty Max. But they probably at the time did Polly Pocket and Mighty Max, so that was a girl-boy thing. And there was 4 or 5 of them that I found at one thrift store, and they were all I think he charged me 25 cents each for them. And they're basically slightly scaled down of those sets. They're the normal set would be maybe this big. This one was maybe half that size.
Yeah.
But it's for a McDonald's toy, it's awesome. I'll say that. So, and I was like, well, Paul still has some because he brought some over a while ago and shared what he had. And I was like, mine is gone, so you can enjoy these since I don't have any.
That was like super cool of you.
Yeah, so I
those.
gave him those. Yeah.
I like really geeked out. I was like, what? Like,
Yeah, so that's how I pay Paul for his appearances in these videos with
a quarter.
toys that are worth 25 cents.
2 bits.
Yeah. And I'm like, is he worth that?
Oh, I know, right?
Not if the phone keeps going off.
I
That's
know,
all
right?
I know. So that is anything else that you had?
As far as the thing that really resonates with me was the cartoon.
Yes, exactly.
Cartoon
So yeah,
was
transitioning
amazing.
to why it's very similar to Exo Squad. Why this one is good is the cartoon, and go talk a little bit about the cartoon.
Yeah. So each episode was a story based on like one of those play sets, and just like the writing was so well done.
It was almost like a more action-oriented, like DuckTales. You know, you
Yeah.
had this sort of like there was elements of like history and education in there that really raised the bar. And like you said, the writing. So I think that element of it, like it's almost like, oh, we have this playset that's an Egyptian tomb. How do we justify that in the story? And they did it brilliantly. They would do those things really, really well.
And so like Max was like he was the chosen one, or like the mighty one.
Yeah, and it was like
And-
the hat that gave him the power, and it was like passed down, and it was like
Right.
only the wearer could wear it. And he's like a little kid, like learning to be this hero. And with Virgil and Norman looking over him, like it was really like deep.
Yeah, and,
For a
like,
kid's show.
Norman was his protector, and then Virgil was like the Obi-Wan character.
Yeah, yeah.
In a way, and so he had this great destiny that he was struggling with, you know, throughout all these episodes, and so the main villain was Skullmaster, and I remember there was an episode where he had to get all these heroes together, almost like Seven Samurai, or and destroy like the Orb of Souls or whatever, Skullmaster's den. And so they all came together and, you know, sacrificed their lives so that,
Yeah.
you know, they could destroy this orb and save the world. And it was just, but
And if I remember correctly, didn't like the series end, or like the episode where like Norman dies along in like the adventure, they saved the day and defeat Skullmaster, but like Max is like kept with his burden, and he like goes back in time, I think.
oh yeah,
And he like
so
and he remembers, like, and he knows what happened, and like, and he like, it's really heavy. Like, at least I'm not remembering it clearly, but as a
I know
kid,
exactly.
that was like a heavy impact on me.
Yeah, so, and it was the last episode, Virgil and Norman die, Skullmaster, like, rules the world, and then at the very end, it's just Max by himself, and there's like this, like, scepter, and then
And it's like all you can
travels
do
him back
is,
in
like,
time.
is to try to start again.
Yeah, it travels him back in time to the original
So like
episode.
it's basically he's at the beginning of the pilot episode. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like a total time loop.
Yeah, and that's the series.
Yeah.
Because again, like similar to Exo Squad, it didn't have much of a life beyond. That was it. So I think, yeah, great series.
And the
So
thing I loved about it is, like, you know, normally, like, this was the first time I watched a show where my dad got interested in it.
Oh, really?
Like, I would watch it right before I go to school, and he'd say, like, what is this show? And he would sit down, and he would watch it with me, and he would say, like, you know, how's your you know, day at school today,
Yeah.
mighty one? You know, and, like, it was Virgil. Like, we would talk about it, and it's like, it was the first show that both of us could enjoy, like me and
Yeah.
my dad. And my dad was not really into that kind of stuff. Like, he was not really into the same things I was, but it was like a great bonding experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mighty Max. So it's like, so I just think of it so fondly, like, because of that.
I don't know when it was on for me. It's one of those things. It was one of those shows too. Like we talked about with Exo Squad. At least in my market, you had to chase it down. It wasn't. It was hard to find. It was hard to figure out where this was. And I don't know if that's because it wasn't doing well in the ratings, so they just shuffled it, or if it just they made it do well in the ratings because they shuffled it. But it was a hard to find show. But again, so why they should reboot it is sort of our final phase, and I think we've kind of already transitioned to that point, because what you have is amazing play value. Amazing play value, great play value. Like you can get, you know, I had one of those sets that was like a more elaborate one, but I remember I got it either for Christmas or like in the the early '90s, they would have before the internet killed catalogs and things, and Sears and JCPenney, they would have like the Christmas catalog. It was a clearance catalog of what they didn't sell, and that's how I got mine. There was different toys that I bought. This was up at least through the later '90s. 'Cause I remember I got some Episode 1 toys from the clearance catalog. I had like a Obi-Wan and a Qui-Gon Jinn 12-inch doll. Also had a Jar Jar Binks, but and it came with that and Battle Droid. I've since sold all of them, unfortunately. I wish I still had the Qui-Gon and the Obi-Wan. They're really cool. But those were purchased in a clearance catalog. Like after the holidays, it would be what was left over from the Christmas stuff that they didn't sell in the catalog. So I ordered from Sears or JCPenney, whichever one it was, probably JCPenney, I think. And that's how I got my Mighty Max set. So it was cheaper than it would be. It was probably still like $20-$30, which as a kid, that was all the money in the world to me. But it was worth it because I had, from that one set, all the play value I needed. Because I had all the figures that I could want, whether I had Max, Virgil, Norman, a couple of bad guys. I was set. I had what I needed. So that's the first reason to reboot it. The play value is great. The potential for toys is great. And obviously the potential for story is great. Like the story itself, like you could do some really interesting things. It was clever for then, and I think kids cartoons have elevated even more so because of shows like that there's potential for what you could do with it.
Each episode was just like a great overarching storyline.
They just rebooted DuckTales, and it's kind of a similar sort of in that sense.
And
it's like really heavy, dark DuckTales. Basically, is the way I like to think about it.
I love the fact that it trusted kids with these very complex themes. I think a lot of cartoons before that just kind of dumbed down to kids. Like they're trying to sell them a toy or something.
Exactly. Like if you look at something like G.I. Joe or even those cartoons, it doesn't hold the viewing power now. Like I watch it more nostalgically as opposed to whereas I can watch something like this and enjoy the story, which is why your dad could watch it with you because there's more story going on. It's just above and beyond just a kid's show.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, my dad would record it on VHS. And so what I did is way back when they had the VHS and DVD things. That combo.
Yeah.
I actually transferred some of them onto DVD, so I have a couple episodes on DVD.
Yeah.
That, as recently as 3 months ago, I just revisited some of those episodes, and it still holds up after all this time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and you'll see a lot of those if you watch on YouTube because Mighty Max is hard to find. If you watch the YouTube episodes, clearly someone recorded on VHS, and sometimes you get those tracking lines and that kind of thing. You get that nostalgia for things that were digital technology. Thank you for saving us from that.
But yeah, I would love to have a DVD box set of all the episodes.
Yeah, and they don't have that officially released. You can find these things if you go to Comic Cons. You'll see they'll sell sort of illegal copies of Exo Squad, different shows like that. And to be fair, it's they're selling things that aren't being produced. So there's a market for that. Just some kind of version of it that's clean. It's a nice transfer that's not degraded from 50 VHS copies that's then uploaded to YouTube, whatever.
I'm always
tempted
to buy one, but
same here.
The merchant is always a human Watto.
Hey,
let's a deal.
I know. I don't want to lose my ship over this.
Yeah, no worries.
I have a nice.
I'm done.
Yeah, like a shiny bullet-looking thing. I don't want
Yeah.
So this episode has a lot of episode 1 references in it for some reason.
Yeah.
But point being, bring it back. So we'd like to see Mighty Max brought back. I'd be happy to write it. So.
Could they bring it back as a movie or as a cartoon series, or what would be the best way?
I would say live action could work. I feel like it would work better as some kind of series because a live action Netflix show or something would be awesome. That you can have it, this I feel like that you can do something that kind of would appeal to kids, but it's not a kids show. I don't want to see their Marvel shows, but something a little bit lighter for kids, but heavy enough that the adult could still watch it. But live action, you could have, you could go down a lot of roads of adventure. I think.
It'd be kind of neat if they had the same kind of tone of maybe Stranger Things.
That's what I was thinking.
Set in the 90s instead.
Yeah, exactly. But more for kids like
Yeah.
you know, like a little bit more open for kids, and but because there's scary elements to the shows and things, so you could go down that road, and there's a lot of opportunity. I think it could work as live action. I think not, but I don't know as a movie, just the way the series. Because it's still, I love those self-contained, you know, there's an overall story, but there's still those little story units that sort of match a playset. And I love that idea. So, anyway, that's it. So that is Mighty Max. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. What do you think of Mighty Max? Are we totally on about what should be done? If it should be rebooted, how should it be rebooted? Sort of shepherd in the right direction. I don't know if you hear my dog barking when my dog's barking. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. We will see you next time.